Hey YouTube, what's going on? I'm Rocket, and this is part 2 of my Nest HackTheBox walkthrough. So in the previous video, we kind of hit a wall where we previously enumerated the custom service, and there was nothing there. We also previously enumerated all the SMB shares as the temp user and all their content. We also looked for certain keywords such as password, credentials, and secret. So in this video, we're going to go over some of those other files that we did not take a close look at. So let's go back to our SMB directory. So go to Nest, let's go to SMB, and we'll go to temp user. Let's just do a find, see what kind of files we should look at. So what I like to do here, just to stay organized, is I like to, well, first find all files, copy this, and we will go to our loot directory, because we're going to take some notes right here. So you go to loot, just call this notes, dump this here. So as I go in order, I'm going to write notes on every single file here that I think is useful and applicable to me. So let's start with itconfigs notepad++ config.xml. Let's go less, put in quotes just in case there are any spaces. And here we find, well, actually I'm going to edit with Vim so we can get some colors. And here we don't see too much that's interesting. Just a bunch of GUI config metadata. Go down a little bit. Backup. Nope. Not too interesting. Let's keep going down. And at the bottom, we notice some files. More specifically, the one that pops out to me is the share that says HTTP Nest secure it carl temp.txt. Because I do remember, like if we remember in the previous video, there was this secure share, but we didn't have permissions to list the contents in it. Though, interestingly enough, we do have an absolute path to a file right here, so that might become interesting later on. So I'm going to take note of these files right here. They look pretty interesting to me. I'm going to copy that, dump them in my notes, just like that. And the next file is going to be shortcuts.xml. Let's see if we can find any goodies over there. Let's copy that, quit out of this one. And we're also going to edit this with Vim so we can get syntax highlighting. And here we can see that the IT crew uses certain technologies like Firefox, Internet Explorer, Chrome, Safari. And they like to look for PHP, so that might suggest they're also a PHP developer. And they do, of course, they like Notepad++. And okay, so I'm going to copy some of this right here. That might become handy. Let's copy that. Let's dump it here. Oops, I didn't copy that properly because I need to actually use my operating system's paste buffer and not the Vim copy paste buffer. So set paste in this other tmux window, we'll dump it, and maybe instead of, yeah, we'll just keep it like that. All right, we've already taken a look at the ruscannerconfig.xml in the previous video, but we'll just put it here just to stay organized. So we'll close out of this. And this time we'll open it with less. Let's kind of like copy this, just so that we went over it. So actually on this note, what we should do is we eventually do want to decrypt this password, which you can check out the previous video to see how we figured out that this password is encrypted. And it looks like it's for LDAT4csmith. So I'm going to open the creds file in the same directory. Maybe copy some of this right here. And I'm going to say something like csmith password is something like this that's encrypted. Make sure I don't clobber anything. and we'll just say something like LDAP. Okay. And then maybe even just a to-do as well. Okay. The next file is itconfigs adobe editing.xml. Take a look at that. Oops. So this file is a binary file. Let's check it out anyways. So it looks like every 2 characters we get an ASCII character. So V and then some sort of unprintable character followed by an E and yada yada. So whenever you see binary data like this, you can run it through XXD again, just so you can get a hex view of it. So just go XXD and then this file right here. If you're curious for how I managed to autocomplete this so quickly, I just hit Alt period and you can get the last word of the previous command that you ran. So looking at this hex dump, we notice that for the most part, the second byte after every non-null byte, it's some sort of character in the printable ASCII range. So because of this pattern right here, we can think that every byte is Unicode. So if you were to read this data, you would read it 2 bytes at a time. So you'd say read these first 2 bytes followed by these 2 bytes followed by these 2 bytes. And the way how it would render in the expected editor or program would just be this character and this character and this character. But it would also allow room for, let's say, Chinese characters, which happen to be in the Unicode range, where you have more than 1 byte. So because we want to actually print these characters, we can use a tool called iconv to convert this Unicode file to ASCII. So if you go man iconv, just to see how we can do this, we can go from encoding, so we go from Unicode, and then to ASCII and our input file. Simple enough. So let's go iconv, F for from, so Unicode, T for to, and we'll say ASCII. We'll take this file right here. And then we'll run it through less. And that looks a lot better. But from the grand scheme of things, this information does not look too helpful. So we'll just ignore that. Let's go on to the next file. So we'll just say nothing. Check out settings.xml instead. And because this is also under the Adobe directory, we can also assume that this is Unicode. So I'm just gonna convert this from Unicode to ASCII and then pipe it through less. And that worked. So this also doesn't look very interesting. So we're just gonna go here and say nothing. Check out the projects.xml. Nothing there either. Nothing. Maybe check out options.xml. Maybe, oh, you don't, right, so that didn't look like it was a Unicode file. Oh, it's a text file, sorry. TXT. And it looks like it is empty. Text, not XML. Yeah, it's 0 bytes. Okay. We could check this file for alternate data streams if we really want to, but I'm not going to do that right now. So we'll just say empty file. Put an exclamation mark. Now let's check the Microsoft options.xml. Okay, so it says it's a binary file, so we can just copy our handy Unicode command here and pipe it through less. So this has some information that looks a bit more interesting. It says Microsoft Virtual PC 2007, which looks pretty outdated. So that's suspicious. We might potentially be able to abuse something later on there. And yeah, we might. I'm gonna keep this file here and just do a quick note. We could just say something like, could have some interesting system information. All right, we're almost done with the list. So we'll quickly take a look at this right here. And this looks hard to read. So whenever I see some XML and it's just kind of like all inline like this, I do like to run it through a tool called xmllint to format it. So we can go xmllint -- format and pass this and pipe it through less again. And you get the formatted XML output if it is valid XML. So this looks like some sort of information that we could abuse for a social engineering attack later on, because we get certain data like a product, which is assigned to Deanna Meyer, which is a person's name. Placement assigned to Jolie Lenihan, and other stuff that are assigned to other people. So we will keep that in mind. So let's take note of that. Has people names and products could be useful for social engineering. All right, and we've actually seen these in the previous video, so we can just ignore these. Just delete that. Cool. All right. So at this point, I like to quickly review my notes again from top to bottom to stay organized. And let's start from up here. We did notice this share right here, and this is an absolute path to the temp.txt file. However, when we ran smbmap in the previous video, we did not have permissions to list contents in the secure directory. So let's see if we can't access this file, or even, let's say, go into the IT directory, which is under secure directory. So at this point, I'm going to go check out the secure share, because that rings a bell, and I'm going to try to get into that share using the temp user credentials. So go smbclient, and we'll say -u to provide the user, and we'll call it temp user, and the password was welcome 2019. If you're wondering how I got these credentials, you can go check out part 1 in the link below. And we'll say nest.htb, and the share was secure. $. Cool. So let's go ls to list, and let's go into the IT directory here. Do a list. So this is the point where smbmap failed to recursively go into the IT directory because we don't have permissions to list the IT directory. But let's try going into Carl, because just because we can't list directories doesn't necessarily mean we can go access directories that happen to be there. Let's go to Carl, and we get a hit. So that is very promising. And it looks like we do have permission to list. So at this point, what I like to do is we're going to take a step back. We're going to go into the temp user directory. I'm actually going to move all this stuff to a data directory, because all of these contents were from the data share. So let's just do that quickly to stay organized, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to then go into the secure share, make a directory for that, and then run smbclient to recursively download all the contents in there. So make their data, and then I'm going to move everything to data. And then we make a directory called secure $. We're going to go to the secure $. All right, so let's run smbclient again here, and we're going to go back to the IT directory, well, IT Carl, do a list. All right, and now we're going to recursively download everything. So recurse on, prompt off, and mget star. All right, so it looks like we've downloaded a bunch of files. Looks good to me. Let's keep this here for now. It's good to have an smbclient window open. So at this point, we can enumerate for all files. So if they do a find and then type F, specify files. And here we can see that we have some Visual Basic files. And this whole project structure also looks like a project that was made with Microsoft's Visual Studio. And I say that because we can find the .vb project and a solution file. So it looks like someone in IT, or Carl more specifically, had this project as a work in progress, which means we might find some goodies in there. But before we go check this out, we're going to take a look at these two text files right here. So at the MMC file, we see some MSC files which are not very interesting for now, but we'll keep that in the back of our head. Let's take a look at this too, the IP.txt. Looks like the IT person ran a few ipconfig commands, which are also not very interesting. All right, so in the next video, we're going to go debug this program and see if we can't find any goodies. So I'll see you there.